The recordings were never meant to be public. Most people only learned about them after a former telecom employee uploaded fragments of internal documentation to an anonymous forum in 2021. The files described a series of emergency calls connected to a small radio station in northern Minnesota. At first, the incident seemed unrelated. Different callers, different years, different emergencies. But investigators eventually noticed something disturbing. Every caller described hearing the same voice before contacting emergency services. A voice nobody else could hear. The earliest documented case happened in October 1998. A man driving alone on Route 14 contacted emergency dispatch shortly after midnight. His transmission was unstable, heavy static. The operator struggled to understand him at first. Then the man suddenly asked a strange question. "Can you still hear the woman talking?" The operator said there was no woman on the line. The caller became quiet for several seconds. When he spoke again, his voice sounded weaker. "She's been talking since the station came back." Dispatch asked what station he meant. The caller answered, "WCVR." That confused investigators later because WCVR had permanently shut down 6 years earlier. The station building had been abandoned since 1992. According to archived reports, the caller's vehicle was discovered the following morning, parked beside an empty service road. The engine was still running. The driver was gone. Search teams never found him. At the time, police treated the incident as a probable disappearance. Then another call happened. December 2003. This time, the caller was a college student returning home from a late shift. She contacted emergency services while driving through a wooded area several miles outside Bell County. The operator later described the caller as terrified, but unusually calm. The student repeatedly asked dispatch to confirm whether a local radio station was broadcasting nearby. Dispatch said there were no active stations within range. The caller disagreed. She claimed somebody kept speaking between songs, quietly, as if directly addressing her. The operator asked what the voice was saying. The caller answered, "It knows which road I'm on." According to transcripts released years later, the student then lowered the volume inside her car. The voice remained audible, not through the radio speakers, somewhere else inside the vehicle. The line disconnected less than a minute later. Police found her car abandoned near a drainage ditch shortly before sunrise. The radio inside the vehicle was still powered on. Every preset frequency had somehow changed to the same dead station. But CVR. Over the next decade, similar reports continued appearing across multiple states. Drivers, night shift workers, long-distance truckers. Several callers claimed the voice sounded female. Others insisted it changed, depending on who heard it. One caller described it as elderly. Another claimed it sounded exactly like his sister. A former dispatcher later stated that the details surrounding the voice varied constantly, except for one pattern. Every caller believed the voice already knew where they were. Investigators eventually connected the incidents to an unusual technical anomaly. According to leaked telecom records, every emergency call linked to the WCVR cases contained unexplained secondary audio hidden beneath the main transmission. The sounds were faint, almost impossible to isolate clearly. But after enhancement, analysts discovered something disturbing. Multiple voices could be heard speaking at once underneath the calls. Some whispered. Some laughed quietly. Several appeared to be repeating fragments of previous emergency reports. One recording disturbed investigators more than any other. A truck driver contacted dispatch in February 2011 after claiming he had been hearing the station intermittently for nearly 3 hours. At first, he sounded irritated, then gradually frightened. He told dispatch the woman on the station kept mentioning highway exits before he reached them. The operator attempted to keep him calm while tracing the call. Then the truck driver suddenly interrupted her. "She just said your name." The dispatcher later confirmed she never gave the caller her name at any point during the conversation. Seconds later, another voice became audible through the line. Very faint, barely understandable. Audio analysts eventually isolated the sentence years later. It said, "He finally answered." The truck driver never spoke again after that moment. His empty vehicle was discovered 14 miles farther down the highway, with the headlights still on. The trailer door stood wide open. Investigators found signs suggesting the truck had continued moving for several minutes after the driver disappeared. By 2016, internal reports connected at least 17 disappearances to calls mentioning WCVR. The station itself became the center of online speculation afterward. Urban explorers eventually located the abandoned building deep in the woods outside Bell County. Photos taken inside showed decades-old broadcasting equipment, still connected to power sources, somehow functioning intermittently. Several explorers claimed radios inside the station occasionally activated without warning. Always to the same frequency. Always accompanied by faint speech beneath the static. One recording uploaded briefly to a horror forum attracted particular attention before disappearing. The footage showed a man walking through the station's main recording room while holding a flashlight. At first, nothing unusual happened. Then an old radio near the back wall suddenly activated by itself. Static filled the room. A woman's voice quietly said, "You took the wrong road again." The explorer froze immediately. According to users who watched the footage before it vanished, the man holding the camera began breathing heavily afterward. Then he whispered something strange. "She sounds closer this time." The video ended seconds later. Nobody identified the uploader. The account disappeared the same night. WCVR was demolished in 2019 after repeated trespassing incidents. Most discussions surrounding the station faded afterward. Until a retired emergency dispatcher gave an interview last year, discussing the calls publicly for the first time. Near the end of the interview, She was asked whether she personally believed the station had ever truly gone off air. She paused for several seconds before answering. Then she admitted something investigators had never released publicly. Occasionally, after certain emergency calls ended, dispatch operators would continue hearing faint audio through their headsets for several minutes. Static, breathing, fragments of conversation. And according to her final statement, sometimes the voice would quietly ask why they stopped answering the station.